This is a May Luna Media production.
Welcome to the Synaptic Soul Podcast, where science meets spirit and they totally make out. I'm Ava Marie Anderson, your quantum-loving, spiritually savage bestie, here to prove your energy isn't mystical, it is measurable. And oh, quick heads up, if you hear snoring or grunting or a dramatic sigh mid-download, that is not a ghost in the machine. It's just my Frenchie co-hosts, Rocky and Rambo, vibing at their own frequency. Let's dive in. We've been trained to think of a new year as a motivational reset. New calendar, new planner, new version of you ready to roll out on January 1st like a software update that's somehow installed overnight. But that framing is shallow and it's misleading and it's biologically inaccurate. A new year is not just a psychological milestone. It is a threshold, and thresholds don't behave like goals. Like goals are cognitive. Thresholds are embodied. You don't think your way through a threshold. You cross it with your nervous system, whether you're conscious of it or not. Every meaningful transition humans have ever marked, birth, death, initiation, marriage, rites of passage, they all involved uncertainty and pause and disorientation. Not clarity and not confidence. Disorientation comes first because something old has to loosen before something new can organize. And what makes the turn of the year uniquely potent is that it happens collectively. Billions of people orient their attention, consciously or unconsciously, toward reflection and beginning again. Even if somebody says they don't believe in the new year, their body is still embedded in a social system that does. Conversations change, media shifts, schedules reset, expectations soften and then they reform. Like shared attention creates real coherence, and when enough nervous systems synchronize around a symbolic moment, the field changes. This is why the days between late December and early January often feel strange, like foggy and emotional and heavy and quiet or suspended. You're not lazy, you're not broken, you're just in between signal states. The old year hasn't fully cleared and the new one hasn't stabilized yet. That liminal zone is not a problem to fix, though. It is a phase to metabolize. And cultures that understood this built rituals around it. Ours tells you to power through it and call it productivity. And biologically, your body is already doing a lot during this time. Like the changes in light exposure affect circadian rhythms, and melatonin and cortisol patterns shift, and sleep architecture gets weird. Dopamine systems dip after the stimulation of the holidays. Like emotionally, people are processing an entire year's worth of experience, like what worked and what didn't and what ended and what never happened. Expecting immediate momentum in this window is like demanding a seed sprout before it's even been planted. But here's the reframe most people never hear. Disorientation is not failure. It's just evidence of reorganization. Like human systems reorganize before they optimize. Just like a computer pauses during an update, your nervous system slows output so that it can rewrite code underneath the surface. This phase doesn't look impressive, and it doesn't photograph well, but it is essential. And when we skip it, we don't actually begin anything new. We just recreate the past with better branding. This year opens up as like a 1 year in numerology, which amplifies that threshold energy. Like one energy doesn't arrive with a detailed plan, it just arrives with a pulse, and it asks for presence before precision. Initiation doesn't say, here's what you're going to be. It asks you, are you willing to step forward before you are sure? So if you feel unsettled instead of inspired, or tender instead of confident, or slow instead of motivated, that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It just means that your system is listening more deeply than your mind wants to. Like the mind craves certainty, but the body prioritizes timing. And the body knows that beginnings don't need to be rushed, they just need to be held. The real work of this threshold isn't deciding who you're going to be this year. It's staying embodied enough for the answer to emerge organically. Presence is the initiation. The rest comes later. A 1 year in numerology is often misunderstood because we associate beginnings with confidence. We assume that if something is meant for us, it should arrive with clarity and validation and a sense of I got this. But initiation doesn't work like that. Not in numerology, not in neuroscience, and not in human history. So in numerology, one is the spark. It's the dot. It's the moment something exists where nothing did before. Like there's no momentum yet, just ignition. This is why a 1 year can feel confronting. It asks you to move without evidence, to choose without guarantees, and to act before the world confirms that you were right. That's destabilizing for a nervous system trained to equate safety with predictability. A 1 year isn't about fixing what already exists. It's about authorship, about shifting from responding to life into generating it. And authorship is not a vibe, it is a responsibility. Once you step into I choose, you lose the comfort of blaming timing or circumstances or other people for where your life goes next. Initiation hands you the pen and then steps back, and from a nervous system perspective, this is where many people stall. Like the brain hates uncertainty. It wants familiar patterns because familiar patterns are predictable and predictable feels safe. So instead of initiating something truly new, people drag old identities into the new cycle, like the same habits and the same self-concept and the same coping strategies, with maybe just a new year slapped on top. That's not initiation. That's repetition with better lighting, because true initiation requires a temporary loss of orientation. And across cultures, rites of passage always included a liminal phase, a time where the old role was gone, but the new role hasn't yet been defined. Like you're no longer who you were, but not yet who you're going to become. That space wasn't rushed, it was respected. Our culture eliminated that phase and replaced it with performance, and then we all act surprised when people burn out 2 months in. Like a 1 year asks for something quieter and braver. It's willingness without proof. Willingness to be seen before you feel ready. Willingness to try things that don't yet have social validation. Willingness to identify as the version of you that's emerging, not the one that's already approved. And this is where confidence gets built backwards. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes from coherence. Every time you act from alignment instead of fear, your nervous system records that novelty can be safe. And over time, that safety becomes your identity. You don't think your way into becoming somebody new. You behave your way there in small, repeatable ways. And this is also why a 1 year coincides with instability in external systems. Like initiation phases destabilize old authority structures, and old narratives lose credibility. And then new voices emerge, not because they're perfect, but because they're willing to step forward while others wait for certainty. That's happening collectively right now, and it's happening internally for a lot of people too. Like a 1 year doesn't ask you to leap blindly. It asks you to take the next honest step without outsourcing your authority, to choose based on resonance instead of reassurance, and then to trust that clarity is a result of movement, not a prerequisite for it. Initiation doesn't negotiate, it invites, and then it waits to see who's going to answer. New beginnings are biological events before they're motivational speeches. Your nervous system doesn't know what day it is on the Gregorian calendar, but it absolutely knows when rhythms shift and when patterns break and when the light changes and stimulation spikes and routines reset and when the social field gets loud with start-over energy. Like humans are pattern-based organisms. We are literally prediction machines wrapped in skin. So when the environment cues new cycle, your physiology responds sometimes before your mind even has the words for it. So let's start with the circadian rhythm, because your body's basically a solar-powered device pretending that it isn't. Light hits the retina, signals the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is your brain's master clock, and then that clock coordinates timing across the system with sleep and digestion and immune function and hormone release. Winter shifts light exposure, which shifts melatonin timing and cortisol patterns. People underestimate how much that alone can change your mood and your motivation. And then add in late nights and travel and sugar and alcohol and disrupted meals and emotional stimulation from the holidays, and your nervous system is like, cool, love this for us, truly. Now, please don't ask me to become a brand new person in 24 hours. And then there's dopamine, your motivation and salience system. The holidays are basically dopamine fireworks. It's novelty and social intensity and food and shopping and stimulation and screens and anticipation. And when that all calms down, a dopamine dip is normal. That's why January can feel flat and people interpret it as I'm lazy or I lost my spark. And I'm here to tell you, no, babe, your system is recalibrating baseline. Motivation isn't a moral virtue. It's a neurochemical state shaped by sleep and movement and novelty and safety. And if your dopamine baseline is readjusting, you don't need a vision board. You just need a nervous system exhale. And now layer in stress physiology. So cortisol's not the villain. It is the mobilizer. But chronic cortisol from go, go, go makes the body prioritize short-term survival strategies like hypervigilance and impulsivity and numbing and distraction. And when the calendar flips, there's often a moment where the system tries to come down from months of sympathetic activation. And that can look like fatigue or brain fog or irritability or weepiness or why do I suddenly want to delete my entire life and move to a cabin with my dogs? Like, that's not you being dramatic. That's your nervous system asking for regulation and coherence before it attempts novelty. And this is why simplification becomes instinctive in January. Like, people crave clean spaces and fewer commitments and quieter mornings and less noise. It's not aesthetic minimalism. That's cognitive load reduction. Your brain has limited bandwidth, and new pattern formation requires available resources. So if your day is cluttered with micro stressors, your system cannot allocate energy to building new neural pathways. Real change is metabolically expensive. The brain literally consumes more energy during learning and adaptation, so the body asks for less chaos so that it can repattern. And neuroscience calls this plasticity. It's the brain's ability to rewire. Plasticity is higher when you have the right balance of safety and novelty. Too much novelty without safety triggers threat response, and then the system clamps down. Too much safety without novelty creates stagnation. So January is a weird window where novelty is socially supported, like new routines and new starts and new commitments, but your body still needs safety cues to participate. And this is where people mess up. They try to force massive change with dysregulated system, and then they interpret the backlash as failure. But the backlash is your body saying, I can't hold this much newness without stabilizing first. And spiritually, this translates to a simple truth. Embodiment is the gatekeeper of timelines. You can't manifest a new identity while your body is stuck running old survival code. If your system is braced and vigilant and exhausted, it's going to choose familiar pain over unfamiliar possibility every single fucking time. That isn't weakness. That is biology doing its job. So, a real beginning starts with regulation, sleep, light, hydration, nourishment, movement, breath, and honest emotional processing. Not because you're broken, but because your body needs a stable platform to run new programs. And let's talk about emotions surfacing, because they always do when you create space. Like, beginnings don't only bring excitement, they also bring grief. Grief for what didn't happen, or for who you outgrew, or the year that you just survived, or the time that's gone. When the world quiets down after the holidays, the nervous system finally has room to process what it postponed. And that can feel like sadness arriving out of nowhere. And it's not out of nowhere. It's from everywhere you've been storing it. Like, the system isn't sabotaging you, it's just completing a cycle. So, if January feels tender or foggy or slow, you are not behind. You are just recalibrating. Your body is lowering noise and renegotiating baseline and preparing the conditions for new wiring. The most scientific thing that you can do in a season of beginnings is to stop fighting your biology and just start cooperating with it. Like, new year, new timeline, yes, but the nervous system is the doorway, and it only opens when it feels safe enough to step through. Now, zoom out because this isn't only personal. The new year is one of those rare moments where huge portions of humanity are oriented toward the same psychological and emotional themes at the same time. That's reflection and closure and renewal and hope and what now and that sacred panic of possibility. That synchronized attention matters, not in a fluffy good vibes only way, but more like when large groups of humans synchronize behavior and attention, measurable shifts occur in physiology and emotion and decision making. Like humans are social mammals. We entrain, we co-regulate, we mirror. We are receivers and transmitters, whether we admit it or not. So think about it. Your nervous system is constantly scanning for cues of safety and danger, and part of that scanning is social. Your body wants to know, are we alone in this or are others doing it too? That's why collective rituals exist. They reduce uncertainty. They tell the nervous system this is a shared passage, you're not dying, you're just changing. And the new year functions as a global ritual, whether you're into it or not. The field is saturated with begin again messaging, like conversations and media and workouts and cleanses and goal setting and spiritual practices and resolutions and confessionals. That social saturation creates a coherence wave. And coherence doesn't mean everybody's aligned or enlightened. It just means that attention is synchronized. And when attention is synchronized, behavior shifts. And when behavior shifts, the probability landscape shifts. And that is where the quantum metaphor actually gets useful without going off the rails. Like what we repeatedly attend to becomes more likely to stabilize. And then observation changes outcomes, not because you're magically controlling reality with your mind, but because attention directs actions, and actions change choices, and choices change trajectories. That's the practical version of the observer effect in human life. And there's also the neuroscience angle. Emotional contagion and group entrainment are so very real. Moods spread, nervous systems sync. You can feel the difference walking into a tense room versus a calm one without anybody speaking. And now multiply that by millions of people participating in the same ritualized end and begin moment. And then you've got a field that is temporarily more responsive to change. Not because the universe has a calendar, but because humans do, and humans are the ones making the decisions that shape the collective. Now, here's the part that makes this usable. During coherence windows, you need less brute force. When the world is already oriented toward reset, it's easier to implement new habits because your environment supports it. Like your friends are doing it, and your feeds are doing it, and your workplace is doing it. The cultural script is giving you that permission. That permission matters. It then reduces friction, and reduced friction is basically the holy grail of behavior change. But here's the sass. Coherence is not the same as pressure. Like January also comes with a toxic side, and that's comparison and performative transformation and hustle culture pretending that it's self-improvement. That energy hijacks coherence waves and turns it into a panic spiral. Like if I don't reinvent myself immediately, I'm failing. That is not coherence. That's collective dysregulation wearing a cute planner. So the skill is discernment. Like you want to ride that part of the wave that's supportive, that shared intention, and that collective permission to begin, and that social reinforcement for healthier choices without letting the pressure and the comparison contaminate your signal. So if everybody's yelling, your job isn't to yell louder. Your job is just to get clearer. And this is where spirituality and science make out like they're supposed to. Spiritually, we'd say the field is amplified, so set clean intentions and protect your energy. Scientifically, we'd say the environment is primed for new behavior, so reduce friction and increase consistency. It's the same concept, just a different language. Like you don't need to debate whether it's woo or whether it's real because it's both. Humans are meaning-making organisms. Meaning changes behavior. Behavior changes outcomes. So yes, global coherence is a thing, and yes, you can use it. But you use it through embodied actions, not through wishful thinking. You use it by choosing one or two behaviors that match the person that you're becoming, and then repeating them enough times that your nervous system says, oh, this is just who we are now. The wave doesn't do the work for you, it simply makes the work more possible. Most people try to start a new year by using force, like they white knuckle their way into a new identity. They declare war with their old self, and they set goals like they are negotiating with a hostile universe, and then shockingly, they burn out. Because force is not sustainable. Force is what you use when you don't trust the process. Force is what the nervous system does when it doesn't feel safe. So if you want a real beginning, a beginning that doesn't collapse by February, you have to shift from force to coherence. And coherence isn't laziness. It's alignment between intention and physiology. It's when your body and your behavior and your beliefs are all pointing the same direction. Coherence feels steady, but force feels urgent. Coherence feels like I'm building, and force feels like if I stop, I'll fail. And here's the nervous system truth. A dysregulated system will always choose familiar pain over unfamiliar possibility, always. Not because you lack willpower, but because your biology prioritizes survival over evolution. If your system is in threat response, like overstimulated or under-rested or emotionally flooded, you can write all the affirmations you want and your body will still drag you back to the old patterns because those old patterns are predictable. Predictability equals safety to the survival brain. So riding this wave starts with regulation, with sleep and hydration and movement and light and breath and food that doesn't spike and crash you. Time away from constant input. These aren't self-care aesthetic things. These are prerequisites for neuroplasticity. Regulation gives your prefrontal cortex, your decision-making, access. Dysregulation hands the keys to the amygdala, which is your threat detection. So if you're trying to make a new life from an amygdala-driven state, you're basically building a mansion during an earthquake, and good luck with that. But let's just talk about consistency, because this is where people get offended. Like, the nervous system changes through repetition, not through intensity. You don't become somebody new through one dramatic moment. You become somebody new through small and repeated actions that teach the body a new normal. The brain is a pattern recognition organ. Show it a new pattern often enough and it begins to assume this is who we are. That is identity formation. That's the science behind becoming. Spiritually, we would call those repeated actions spells, and honestly, that's not even metaphorical. A spell is repeated intention plus repeated behavior plus focused attention. That's literally how neural pathways are reinforced. Science and spirituality are describing the same mechanism from different sides of the mountain. This is why I'm always yelling that they're not separate. They are kissing, tongue even. So riding the wave of a new year means that you stop trying to control the timeline and you start becoming the signal. You get honest about what the old year trained into your body. Maybe it's hypervigilance or people-pleasing or overworking or numbing or self-abandonment, and then you choose micro actions that contradict those patterns, not with punishment, but with devotion. You don't fix yourself, you build safety in a new direction, and yes, this is where a one here hits differently. One energy asks for you to initiate, but initiation is not a leap off a cliff. It is a series of small crossings, choosing your morning ritual, saying no, making the call, showing up, leaving the situation that drains you, telling the truth and moving your body and drinking water like a grown adult, and then doing the uncomfortable thing consistently enough that it becomes normal. The wave is here. The field is amplified. The social world is primed, but the real question is, can your nervous system hold the life that you say you want? If not, the beginning is not just more goals. The beginning is more regulation and more coherence and more embodied truth. You don't need to reinvent yourself in a week. You just need to stabilize a new baseline. You need to become somebody that your body can trust. That is how you ride the wave without wiping out. You have been listening to the Synaptic Soul podcast, where science meets spirit and they totally make out. If this episode hit your frequency, do me a favor, rate it, review it, and share it with your fellow quantum weirdos. It helps the wavelength reach more souls. And if you caught a little snoring, that wasn't a portal, just my Frenchies Rocky and Rambo offering background blessings. Music is Cheat Code by 1,000 Hands, used under Creative Commons. And I am Ava Marie Anderson. Stay weird, stay wired, and keep making out with your higher self.